What would you have to do to make it so your customers would say it would be stupid to work with anyone else? That goes for getting new customers, that goes for retaining existing customers. What would you have to be doing in the delivery of your product or delivery of your service that would mean that when people dealt with you in business, they came away saying, we would have to have been stupid to get a kitchen or whatever your product is from anywhere else.
So how long has the business, in its current form, actually been going here?
So in the building we're sat in, we've been here about 15 years. Prior to that, the company was incorporated as DREW FORSYTH and CO. Around about 20 years ago, after a rebrand from Antique Pine Kitchens.
Your journey's been interesting in and of itself, so maybe you can sort of just explain how you came to join the family business and a little bit about your own journey.
Like I said, I was in the business back in sort of 2008 till I think sort of 2011, 12, and then when the recession kind of started getting heavy in the building industry in the UK, took a big hit. It was at a point when I'd kind of done sort of 4, maybe 5 years in the business. I was looking to sort of step up my role potentially into management. I wanted to be earning more money. I was sort of maybe 20, 21 at the time, something like that. I said to my father that I would go and start my own business, learn business for myself, and then come back and rejoin the business in the future.
So you worked here, you sort of cut your teeth in that way in this industry, in the sort of furniture industry. What did you then go out and do in order to learn the game, as it were?
So yeah, I learned the business from the ground up here. Sort of learned making furniture, property development, and after I left the business in sort of 2011-12, I went away and did a little bit more property development for myself, and then went away and started an e-commerce business, which I then built up and ran for 4 to 5 years with a small team, and then sold that about sort of 12 to 14 months ago, and decided to rejoin this business.
What had your father built that you then sort of took over, first of all, before we talk about your vision for taking the business forward?
So with a business that's been running for that long, obviously there's a certain amount of infrastructure in place. There's a large team of sort of 20 to 25 people. We had retail showroom, we had trade customers as well.
I'm quite interested to know how did you take the company and sort of improve that whilst retaining that quality and that that assurance that you can deliver to the clients what you say you're going to deliver, whilst moving the company forward,
Okay, so yeah, it's interesting that you touch on the quality there. What we create here is a luxury product. So it's a high-end luxury furniture, kitchens, bedrooms. So the quality is a big part of the work that we do. If we were looking for growth, which I was looking to grow the company, then the challenge that lied ahead was how do we grow the manufacturing while maintaining the quality of the product that we produce. In the work that we do, it's a traditional build product, and some of the quality or the craftsmanship that comes from it is from a handmade product. So there's a concern there that if you start to expand operations and bring in new people and new machinery, that potentially you lose the USP that made you unique in the first place.
Before we talk about what you actually did in order to transform and move the company forward, maybe you could say a little bit about the mindset and the vision that you had when you first started and how you approached this challenge, as it were.
Okay, so when I first rejoined the business, I was living in London, so my operational input into the business was let's call it part-time, so I would do a week in the business and then a week away from the business. This was absolutely fantastic. If people want to talk about success of a business or an entrepreneur, it's having time to be away from the business and work on the business. So having this week in, week out was absolutely fantastic, because on the week out or a week away from the offices and the manufacturing plant, I could really dial into sort of think strategically without having the cloud of the day-to-day problems that come with a business. The issue that came with being away from the business, that what ended up happening was I would be away, I would strategize, I'd come back with the ideas, come back to put them in place, but then there was no one to see it through, so to speak, because we would sit down and have meetings, and we'd set the ball in play, and I would come back 2 weeks later, and nothing really would have happened. We're back at square one again.
So I guess, although being away gave you the benefit of distance and the ability to sort of strategize, what lacked there was a sort of consistent action day in, day out. The sort of these ordinary interactions that are so important, that was sort of lacking.
Yeah, definitely, because if you're going to change a culture, or you're going to change a business, or you're going to drive for growth, first you've got to get the people on board with that idea. So rather than just throwing that idea out there and assuming that people are going to think it's a great idea or not a great idea, if you've got an idea, in my experience, you're going to have to drive it through.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about 5 sort of key things, key activities that you guys focused on over the last 14 months that allowed you to, I think, more or less double the business. The first key that you spoke about that was essential for this process was a focus on risk elimination, or risk spread, as you call it. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so all businesses are open to risk. People speak about, the sort of majority of startups closing in the first sort of 5 years. Well, once you've got a business to a certain size, I wouldn't say the risk is eradicated. If anything, the risk just grows. The bigger you are, the more the risk you take on. A lot of the thinking that I was doing when I was away from the business was, how do we eliminate the risks or minimise the risks that the business opened to? The biggest risk that we saw to the business was its customer base. Even though we had some really great, loyal customers, and we were creating great product, and customer satisfaction was high. We did the last 10 years in the business with 0 marketing spend, which is, it's extraordinary for any business to be able to do that, especially for a business of this size. But what we were faced with is a small amount of customers, or the business was reliant on a small amount of customers. Personally, I had some advice from a business owner a number of years ago. He said it's not when your customers go, it's not if your customers go bust, it's when they go bust. Now, it might not go bust with a bankruptcy, they might decide to sell, they might decide to move abroad, they might have kids, they might decide to go and get a job. But that really struck home with me. So it's not if a customer goes bust, it's when a customer goes bust. So when we start to think about risk in this business, it's like, actually, what would this business look like potentially if one customer goes bust or 2 go bust? Well, at the point at which I came into the business, if maybe one of the larger customers decided to stop trading, potentially that was 40% of the customer base wiped out.
So I guess what I'm hearing is, in order to sort of spread the risk or to eliminate the risk, I think eliminate is probably a bit of a strong word, because like you said, you can't eliminate the risk, but minimise the risk. One of the things that you focused on was expanding the client base, the customer base. Yeah. So I guess that's sort of the second key that that you spoke to me about. After what you said earlier, how did you manage to expand that customer base while still retaining that level of quality and that level of service that your older customers were so used to?
So what we did, the actuality of what we did was a trade show. I think trade shows, if executed properly, and if the correct trade show is chosen to attend, can be a real asset, or I like to call it a weapon in a business. I think executed badly, they can be very expensive for a business, but if they're done correctly, you can really transform business overnight. So that's what we did. We put together a campaign. We picked a trade show which we felt was going to be advantageous to us, which was an area which had a customer base in which we were targeting. And then we, as a company, we drove towards that. We kind of brought people in to help us execute on that, new salespeople. A lot of planning went into it, and as a company, we drove towards the goal of showing up at that trade show at the best of our ability.
So you're saying, in terms of expanding the business, in terms of jobs to be done, what you actually did was you strategically found the trade show where you knew there were going to be sort of potential prospects, and that was the key weapon in order to sort of grow this customer base. Yeah, so has it been difficult to retain the quality? Has it been difficult to manage that growth?
I think the quality, I think we've got such a great group of guys here that the quality has never really wobbled, let's call it. Managing the growth has been hard in that when we went to the trade show, without coming across too big-headed, that we executed it so well that we were overwhelmed by the response that we had. So we then had to take I think it was like over 100 people who wanted to work with us off the back of the trade show, minimise that down to maybe 10 that we wanted to work with. Crazy as it sounds, we chose to work with the smaller companies, which would allow those to grow with our company, rather than the temptation for many people, which I did in my old business, which is, oh my God, here's a huge company. I remember in one of my last businesses, I was approached to work with Amazon. But obviously in this business, because we're a manufacturing business, if we took on a huge client, they could quite easily overwhelm us, and we would, start off and just fall flat on our face.
So what you're saying is, in a way, it was so effective what you actually did that you had to sort of reduce the clients that you served, because you recognised that, wait a minute, if we take this on, we're not going to be able to retain that quality in the service.
Yeah, well, we just wouldn't be able to deliver full stop.
Yeah, absolutely. The third thing that you spoke about to me before the interview was adding value. So you said this was a keystone of transforming the company. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I mean, value is at the base of all businesses. But at the heart of it is some advice that I got. I forgot who said this, but it's that what would you have to do to make it so your customers would say would be stupid to work with anyone else? That goes for getting new customers, that goes for retaining existing customers. What would you have to be doing in a delivery of your product or delivery of your service that would mean that when people dealt with you in business, they came away saying, we would have to have been stupid to get a kitchen or whatever your product is from anywhere else?
Absolutely. I've always been very much focused on value exchange. And obviously, you guys have got quite a clear understanding of what value is for your key customers, because you've been going so long, right? And I think, if you've got a startup business or you've got a new idea that you're developing at the moment, one of the key things I think we need to understand is, what does value actually mean for our customers? Because value is in the eye of the beholder. We've talked about this a lot, right?
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of watching it, so you could say, strip it down to its basic form. So you go, okay, I'm going to open a shop. Okay, so I'm going to sell the product. Well, someone who's going to come in and buy the products off me because they want what I'm selling, or like a restaurant. So a restaurant selling food, well, people are going to come here because they want my food. Well, if say the food's great, but the service stinks, then that's where the value is. So it's adding those layers on. Yeah, I can be making the best kitchens in the world, but if we're always delivering them late, or if they're turning up and the packaging's a bit tatty, or if the people who are answering the phone are snotty and they're not getting back to you, or they're getting back to you late, then that's the basics of value. You'll read a lot and hear a lot about value, and everyone goes, oh, what's everyone talking about when they're talking about value? To kind of make it on a sort of ground level thing, it's basically about service.
Okay, let's move to the fourth thing. So when George said this to me in the planning session before this interview, I was completely intrigued by it, I have to be honest with you. Find your edge and go towards it.
Yeah.
Can you explain at first a little bit about what that means, and then second of all, sort of explain a little bit about how that's been then relevant to this transformation?
Yeah. Okay, so just to bring it back a little bit, so I think one of the keys to the success that we're having here, and the success that what I've had in my short time in business, is finding people who give you good advice. And some of the advice I took on when I was starting to get involved in this business was that before you can understand the business fully, you need to be very cautious, because as an entrepreneur, you want to run before you can walk, and you're very passion led. So what this person told me was, you need to find the edge and back up. So find out where the edge is, meaning find out where the limits are in the business. maybe in your business it might be cash flow, or it might be the limits. Like for us, it was that we had the customer base, so it's like finding those limits and then just backing up a little bit. Whereas now that I've been in the business 12 months, where we've had that, we're into a stage now where we know the limits are, and we can more or less drive towards them rather than backing off. So that's kind of a little bit about that, really.
And just to go a little bit deeper on that, what is the benefit of that then? And can you explain what the edge actually is? Because I think that's something that's interesting, right? What is the edge, and what is the benefit of going towards it?
I mean the edge. It's a funny way to put it. So I guess the edge in business is, is what we spoke about before. It's where the risk is. Like you said, the analogy would be a cliff. The edge of the cliff is where the risk is. And in business, even though there is no cliff, the edge is where the risk is. So to grow a company is massively risky. A lot of companies go bust while going for growth. For me, if a business isn't growing, it's only doing one other thing, and that is dying. It may be doing slowly, it may be doing it very slowly, it might take a number of years, but if you're not growing, you're dying. But basically what the thoughts behind finding the edge and either backing up or driving towards it is to go back to what we were saying earlier about risk. So it's finding the risks and either backing up because we need to consolidate against those risks, or understanding the risks and understanding the risks, like actually understanding the risks and being able to drive towards them and grow the company while keeping in mind actually these are our limits, and pushing those limits, because that's what growth is in a business, is pushing the limits to find out where your new limits are and then establish yourselves there and then push again.
So what you're saying is, in essence, when a situation looks risky, actually you'll find that if you move towards the risk, it often can be more beneficial and more insightful, and you learn more because you actually grow the limits that you thought you had before.
Well, that's the basis of business growth, is that where we are now and where we're going, we don't know it. Well, we know we have an idea of what it looks like where we're going, but we won't fully understand what it's like to be there until we're there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think it's like that in life as well, like, just to bring it back to sort of the normal everyday life. It's like, when you're making decisions and when you're reviewing options, if you've got a situation where you need to make a decision, there's only a certain amount of planning and thinking and strategy that you can do before you simply have to act. Because what happens is, certainly in my experience anyway, and I don't know I think you're the same, is things appear then on the path that you couldn't account for and that you couldn't know were there in the first place. But if you don't go towards the edge, those things, they never appear, I guess, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of almost, sort of something that Helen spoke about, which is setting goals in your mind and having it being passion-led. I came into the business 12 months ago. I thought to myself, right, okay, what would be a realistic target? And that for us was a revenue target. So I set that revenue target. I shared it with some people within the team. I didn't share it with everyone because it's not relevant to everyone. And then lo and behold, we're just closing out on the first quarter now, and we're on target to achieve that financial goal. Now, I didn't know we were on target to achieve it till it started becoming to fruition. But if I had not have set it or aimed towards it, I can guarantee we wouldn't now be on target to hit it.
Absolutely. Okay, so the fifth thing, this sort of fifth keystone that you spoke to me about, is a culture of empowerment. What does that actually mean, and what has it meant for you guys?
I think the difference between small business and especially small family-run business is the huge difference between this and the corporate world. Is that in the corporate world there's a lot of structure. People don't feel the ability to be able to influence or have their effect on the business, and I think that's why that if you can advertise job roles in the correct way, people are drawn much more towards small businesses, especially small growth businesses, than the corporate world, because one of the human natures is people want to feel like they're making a difference, So by empowering people, directly or indirectly, people get much more sort of job satisfaction out of coming to work, because they feel like actually however menial the task it is that they do, or however menial the task they do as part of their day-to-day role, actually they feel like it's making a difference. So that's kind of the basis of what we kind of work on with the empowerment, is that actually, what does that break down to? And it's just the human nature of everyone wanting to influence and make a difference.
So everyone wants to contribute.
Yeah. For example, someone working at a company doing the same mundane task day in, day out, not getting the recognition, not empowered to make decisions, could quite easily become depressed, or just become down and just think, where's my life going? Why am I doing this? Potentially they start looking for other jobs or underperforming. What we've tried to achieve, or what we're still trying to achieve and will continue to try and achieve for the years to come, is to give people the ability to have influence and affect the outcomes of their job role and make decisions. Ultimately, gives us a great culture where it takes some of the pressure off managers. It makes people self-managing, which for us at the minute, where we're turning into a business that potentially in the future will need a large middle management, is meaning that we don't need that. And for any business, that's an expense that if you can minimise, is a great place to be in, really.
So you're saying, in a way, by what's happened is by giving individuals within the company, regardless of how menial their job seems, by giving them the feeling that they can make a difference, that they do have an influence, that you are interested in their decisions, and that you do trust them and value them. What's happened is you've actually been able to resist adding that extra layer of middle management, which has saved you some cash, I imagine, in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. And what I would say is that, I don't like this word menial, but let's just use it. So however menial the task is, that person is an expert at that. So what I did when I came back into the business was to go to each person in their area and ask for their advice on how we can improve that area. Those people are an expert in whatever it was they were doing. So by asking their advice on how we can help them do their job better, smarter, because at the end of the day, we're looking to grow a company, and as a manufacturing company, we need to increase output. But what I can't do to go to guys is say, I want you to work harder. Well, I could go and do that, but that has its limits. So what I actually have to go to these people and say is, look, how can we work smarter? So by empowering that person to come up with ideas based on a structure, we're sort of achieving the same output of asking does someone actually can you just work harder?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what I'm hearing as well is that what you're doing is you're sort of mobilising the knowledge base within the organisation, which I think, from my experience as working as a management and a leadership trainer and a coach, is often one of the big problems is that your leadership or your management teams simply fail to be interested in the individuals that may be seen as sort of less important than they are, whereas in actual fact, a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the insights, a lot of the potential of the company, arguably the majority of that potential lies within the staff, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there's definitely a risk in smaller companies that are not entrepreneur-led, or all companies are entrepreneur-led, but in a smaller company that's based around a single person, that one person thinks that he can do it better. Well, we all in life generally, a lot of people think, if you want, there's the old saying, if you want to do it right, do it yourself. But that has its limits.
Definitely as a solo entrepreneur, but also as a manager as well. What I know about your style is that you're very much, if I might say, quite hands-off type of leader, aren't you? Because you trust, like we've just spoke about, you trust the staff, you've empowered the staff, and of course, like you said, one of the results of empowering people and giving individuals in the company that autonomy to contribute, it takes the weight off you, right?
Yeah, 100%. And if you think about it on a much bigger scale, do you think the CEO or chief exec of a global company has the ability to influence and affect and do every job within that company that could potentially be employing thousands or tens of thousands of people? And that's something that I play in my head all the time when I'm looking at doing tasks, is that actually, is this a task for me as the owner of a business? Or is that just me wanting to control the situation and my ego?
Absolutely, and it's something that we speak about quite a lot, and we were actually speaking about at dinner earlier on today, was self-awareness. having this awareness as a leader of a business to know, I guess, to know your edges, not only to just go towards them, but to recognise what is important for you and what isn't important for you, rather than to attempt to sort of do everything, right?
Yeah.
And I guess in a company like this, you know, if you're attempting to do everything, then you're probably going to end up
doing nothing.
Yeah, or killing yourself. One of the two. You know what I mean? Yeah. Obviously, the business has undergone this massive transformation. Just to round up this session, what are the foundations now of DREW Forsyth for you?
Yeah, so the foundations haven't changed too much. You know, the family values that DREW set out are still there. We're a very sort of family-focused company. You know, we're supporting a lot of the families of the guys and girls who we employ. What we have to transform the mindset of some of the management team and the sales team is that, you know, as we're looking for growth, well, it's the production team as well, is that as we're looking for growth, there's a growth mindset there. And the new members of the team who are coming in, we're finding, especially in the recruitment phase, that if we're using this let's call it a pitch of, you know, we're a growth company, we're a fast growth company, people are really attracted and drawn towards that. You know, it really surprised me at first when we started doing job interviews for new members of the team, and that people would actively bring it up in their interview and ask us questions about it. And it sort of occurred to me that actually, you know, people are really drawn towards the idea of working in a growth company. And I think to myself, well, why is that? And it's, you know, really it's obvious. It's because where would you rather work in a company that's going places, or potentially a company that's going nowhere? And I think the answer to most people is you know, it's obvious.
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess not only that, not only does it bring that that feeling that you're going somewhere, but of course, if the message from the management of a small business or an SME is that we are taking charge and that we are taking ownership and we are responsible for the future prosperity and profitability of the company, and we're going to take you with us, then obviously that gives the teams a much greater feeling of certainty that they're going to have some sort of security in the future, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then just to answer your second question, it was about the vision.
Yeah.
You know, personally, as an entrepreneur, you like to dream big and these types of things, and you read a lot about people saying, oh, you need to set the vision for your company and this and that. Even though internally I have a vision of where I want to take it, as a company, we're just kind of finding our feet with that, because even though I think on some level big audacious visions are helpful, personally I have found that in this business that potentially big audacious visions or big audacious goals can seem overwhelming to people. So even though I have a sort of unclear end goal, because I don't see that as an end goal, because I don't see that as an end goal in business unless you're looking to sell the business, I would kind of release my ideas of where we're going next at the stage when we've achieved the first bit. Because I think if on some level, if you're always saying, oh, we're going for this, there could potentially be a risk of people becoming deflated by the fact that they've never achieved what you set out to achieve.
So what you're saying, I guess, is that if the big hairy goal is too big, then it almost seems just incredulous, like just totally absurd.
And I think you know, there's hundreds of business books out there that will say, oh, you need to set the big goal and put it up on the wall and people can drive towards it. And yeah, a certain type of person will, especially certain types of salespeople, because those guys think like that. But for us, you know, I just think people would think it would be stupid and unrealistic, especially in a business like this that has been going for a number of years, to suddenly turn around and say, oh, actually, we're going to go away and change the world. Would just people in this business wouldn't have related to that.
What advice would you give to a company director that's already seen significant success and that has a company that's running well, but that has a vision to transform and maybe move the company to the next level, whether it's growth or expansion or whatever? In terms of transformation, what sort of advice would you give to those people?
I'd say that if you don't already know, try to understand why you've achieved that success and quantify that with data or figures. Try to understand what the next level of success or growth looks like. I'll then go on to say that that potentially depending on the type of business, that's going to need investment. Growth is expensive, growth is risky. So try to consolidate or find the edge of your cash position, because things are about to get expensive and you need to be ready for that.
Right, well, it's been great to sit for this short time in the factory. Great to talk to George, and make sure you tune in next time for the next episode. All the best, take care.
Before you go, don't forget to leave us a like or a comment if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button. Yep, that's right, subscribe to my channel so I can send you the next episode of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Business, without you having to lift a finger.